Hello and welcome to this week's Rotherham Advertiser SportsChat Podcast. Joining me around the table this week is Miller's correspondent David Beddows.
Hello.
And returning to the SportsChat Podcast, news editor Michael Upton.
Hello.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Dave, done and dusted, job settled, Mr. Warnock's come in, the Messiah, the Saviour, whatever you want to call him. He's come in and with 2 games remaining, Rotherham are now safe, Championship team for another year. Great news.
Absolutely. I mean, 6 behind at one stage, now 10 to the good, and safe with 2 days to go, games to go. I mean, who can believe it? Who can believe this? It's one of the stories of the season, isn't it? I mean, the match, the atmosphere was flat, really flat, end of season feel to it, and but it was Rotherham defensively resilient. They got the job done, and it's now 11 unbeaten.
Michael, 11 games unbeaten. No one saw that coming when Mr. Warnock came, least of all him, I think. How important is it now that Rotherham really build for next season to give themselves the best opportunity to not be in this situation again?
Well, the first thing they've got to get sorted is the managerial position. Last year's summer was a bit of a disaster. If you look at most of the signings that Steve made, and then one or two of the other problems he had getting the team ready for the start of the season, which we should gloss over now. It seems bizarre that we're going to be looking at another summer potential of instability. They need to get that position sorted and get the players they want to keep signed up and get that retainers down nice and early. Reflected on what's happened in the last 3 months, it's absolutely staggering. I mean, whoever wins the title, whether it's Burnley or Middlesbrough or Brighton, none of those managers surely can have a patch on Neil Warnock as manager of the year. It's absolutely staggering to think 2 weeks before the end of the season we can all put our feet up.
And not only that, Dave, but there's a chance to climb up the league a few places, and not that it really matters that much as long as they're not in the bottom 3, but psychologically it's seen as progression from last year surely.
It is. I mean, what we're 4th, 5th bottom, we're already on last year's points total, which is an achievement in itself. I mean, this hasn't been achieved by other teams imploding. It's been purely, the strength of Rotherham's form.
Well, MK Dons were matching them all the way, weren't they, for a short spell?
That's right. As well, there's plenty for the players to play for. There's quite a few players in around the 30 mark. So you've got to decide as well, who you're going to keep, who you're going to move on. I think there will be, a fair bit of turnover. A lot of players out of contract as well. So I think, as we touched on before, it's quite a biggish job for the new manager, or Mr. Warnock, whoever it is.
We'll just talk about that. Neil's obviously keeping his cards close to his chest in terms of opportunities and chances and stuff like that. But he has said that no matter who the manager is, he will be giving his opinion on who should stay and who shouldn't. Do you think that formula can work? Because surely another manager is going to come in and it could be the other way around. He could want to keep all the ones that Neil wants to leave, and he could want... You know what I mean?
Yes.
Each manager has their own opinion, don't they?
Well, he's going to do the bulk of the work and the recommendations on the retain list, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, you'd think the people who are going to work on new contracts for the core is going to be in place. I mean, there'll be conversations going on daily between Neil Warnock and Tony Stewart, and I would imagine before we kick off in 2 weeks' time, I think they'll have a good idea what's going to happen if we, as a public, don't know already. So the uncertainty, if there is any, will hopefully be over very quickly, and we can get on with planning this summer.
Those conversations are going to be Tony going, "Oh, go on," and Neil going, "No, not yet," and "Go on." "Oh, no, not yet." He deserves a little bit of a time to put his feet up, maybe to the end of the season, and then that decision has to be made. He deserves to be offered a new deal if he wants it, and the club deserve him to decide very quickly. It's interesting you were saying about the players on the retain list and different managers having different views about different players. Isn't it interesting that a couple of players, the likes of Kelly and Frecklington, that Neil Redfern would have been desperate to get fit during his spell in charge, have come through and come to the fore in the last 3 months. Great to see Stephen Kelly settle into that back four.
Well, Rotherham haven't lost a game when Stephen Kelly's played.
Yeah.
So
those players that were brought in, I mean, who knows if Balade and Becker might have been worth a bit, but those players that have come in finally, played for Neil Warnock, and he's had a settled back four for quite a lot of that period, have been very influential in staying up. Just a note, about how calm and collected we are. It must be very odd for Rotherham fans not to be going into the last couple of weeks of the season with something riding on it. If you think about the promotion and then the playoff and then last season's frantic Farron Rawson related fiasco, to be in this kind of comfortable mid-table obscurity, as it were, with April not finished, is very odd.
Yeah, Dave, it must be quite a nice sensation, and that alone again is a sign of progression, isn't it? The fact that this season they've got a couple of games to spare.
Yeah. I mean, who could believe that? I mean, we'll welcome it, won't we? 1 or 2 dead rubbers before the season's done. Why not? The thing here is altering Rotherham United's place in the great scheme of things in this league, which is, we all know how hard it is, and just transforming them from a sort of bottom half club to an established mid-table club is going to be a job and a project.
Who can they be looking at in this league as maybe someone to take a leaf out of their book? Are we talking Brentford? Are we where do we see Rotherham aiming to be placed?
It's hard sometimes finding a club comparable size to Rotherham in this league. There's so many big city clubs in it, isn't there? Maybe Huddersfield are progressing well, aren't they? Brentford, like you say, similar model club, although they've got quite a bit of money behind them, but they've sort of fallen off lately. You worry a bit about Brentford. I think Rotherham have got to find their own path rather than looking for inspiration elsewhere.
There are many ways in which Rotherham is completely unique. I think to have a new modern ground as they have, right slap bang in the middle of the town centre, a very loyal fan base, even when we've been talking about the very bottom of this season. There have been good solid crowds week in, week out. I think that they have a very good core fan base and a very good away fan base, and those fans deserve some kind of consolidation. I think to get to aim, as Dave says, to be like a Huddersfield wouldn't be unreasonable. But we shouldn't overstate what a turnaround it's been over the last 3 months. I mean, we're not talking about a side that's settled into the table obscurity in January, February. If we were, people might be slightly disappointed that they didn't push to a top 10. I think to look at the way they've been playing as well in the last 3 months, that's something you should look at. The idea that you get your defence sorted out and build from there, and also to get the best out of the players that in a way that haven't maybe been seen before. We've talked many times about Matt Derbyshire this season, to see him working so hard. A number of times he tracked back to win the ball back on Saturday. Inspirational for his teammates, and it's not all, if you're a striker like Matt, it's not all about scoring the goals, it's about being a team player.
Dave, Derbyshire's one of these players who were out of contract in the summer. How much do you think, from their point of view, relies on whether Neil Warnock is still the manager or not? Do you think these players, you're looking at your Derbyshires, your Doyleys, your Best, these sort of 30-odd-year-old players who are coming to the end of the contract, they were going to be wanting to play games. How important is it that Neil Warnock is still in the club in terms of their decision whether they stay or not?
Well, I mean, it is important, isn't it? I mean, 30 is an age, it's not a disease. So
you say that from middle distance.
Yeah, from our perspective, yeah. Players at that age, we saw Gary Arneson were playing well, wasn't he, long beyond 30, defenders particularly. So they can still have some to it. He's got, some of these players like Broadfoot, Derbyshire have still got another good contract in them, and you think another year or two, a couple of years at this level in them. It depends who takes over, doesn't it? We're talking about continuity here. We'd like continuity. We'd like Neil Warnock to stay. But if he is going to go, it's another deep and big decision, isn't it, for the board?
I think Joe's talking about it from whether or not the players should commit to the club. If you're talking about 30 being a disease or being an issue for a potential manager, then maybe there aren't going to be that many safe championship clubs that are going to take a punt on them or have them already in their way of thinking. It's funny that the whole season, when you're not a big star, is like an audition. It's like a trial for the next season. And so if there is a new manager, do they look at the way these players have played in the last 3 months or the way they played in the 6 months before that?
Well, I think from my point of view, you've always got to look at it of what they're capable of achieving, and they've shown what they're capable of achieving in the last 3 months. Whether they've hit them highs consistently over the season or not, there's still that bar is there that they can reach, and it'll be the next manager's job to get it out of them for a full season instead of for 3 months, whether that's Neil Warnock or someone else. That's got to be the aim, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Have we hit a glass ceiling? That's the question, isn't it, as we come to the season now? And I think you've got to refresh it. You've got to have a bit more. They've talked about having a more focused recruitment policy this summer.
Steve Evans said that and then signed 33 players.
Quite, yeah. Of course, there's no emergency loan, so there's going to have to be more thought given to it. And, making incremental improvements of this division is really, really hard, and it's going to take some smart thinking.
In terms of players coming in from the outside then, so players who aren't already with the club, Neil Warnock's going to have a big pull factor into it. A lot of players are going to want to play for him at this level. They've seen what he's done in the last 3 months. They've seen what magic he's worked at other clubs in the past. He is Mr. Championship, he's admitted that, that's his level. There can't be too many players who Rotherham can afford who wouldn't want to come and work for Neil Warnock.
No, I don't think I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I think that it's all in his court. I wouldn't force him to make a decision in the next couple of weeks, because unfortunately if he makes an unpopular one, that could put a whole downer on the joy of the last couple of weeks. You have to wonder in a way what's in it for Neil. That's the problem, because he's created a legacy now, and it can
always come back a hero.
It can only be soured if the team struggled.
But
if were we to get 2 or 3 key injuries, which, let's face it, did happen to Neil Redfern, and the side begins to struggle, that people do turn very quickly. Just look at a year ago, Steve Evans was still very much a shining light in many people's eyes, and then within about 3 months, it all went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it?
From Rotherham's point of view, though, the pros that they've got, he's openly said that he wants to manage again, he wants to manage in the Championship, he's got the glint back in his eye. From Rotherham's point of view, this structure where he can be here for 3 or 4 days a week, that's got to play in Rotherham's favour, because who's saying Aston Villa or Nottingham Forest, although he may get paid more, who's to say that they'd allow him to do something similar, Dave?
That's it. We've got to remember, Ronnie Jepson and Kevin Blackwell's piece in this as well, because they've been, more on the team working on the training ground. Neil's been the motivator, and he's been setting the shape up as well. So it's very much been a team effort. It's got to be shared. This great achievement. But the longer you stay in the Championship, the more chance you have of staying in it. Because there's more money's coming in, you can attract better quality players, and they start to be perceived more as a Championship club rather than a yo-yo club. So you'd hope that the hand strengthens as we go forward.
Right, looking forward then, it's the last home game of the season on Saturday. Blackburn Rovers come to town, both teams with nothing to play for, Dave. And if you're talking about damp squib, this could just be it, couldn't it? It
could easily be. To flip-flops come out, who knows what's going to happen. I'd just like to see us get through to the end of the season unbeaten.
That'd be a real achievement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Rotherham have poured so much. It wouldn't surprise me, Saturday, if it's a draw. So if you ask me a prediction, I'd say 1-1.
Michael?
Well, I could see it be flatter than that. It's ironic that 3 or 4 months after we were talking about just want to score a goal and just want to keep a clean sheet, that you look at a game like that and you think it could well be a 0-0 draw. And I don't think anyone will mind that. It's going to be another disappointment for the fans, but they won't care too much, I don't think.
I think there'll be plenty of fans stopping behind as well, Dave, to give their rightful round of applause to the management team in case he doesn't come back to New York Stadium as manager, to the players. A lot of them, like we've said, are out of contract, and this could be their last game at the New York Stadium. So I think it's important that the fans show how much they respect the effort.
I don't know whether Neil's going to risk a balancing act upon the directors box like Steve to do, but we're going to have fans on the pitch, aren't we? And they deserve it.
Lovely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you at home for listening. Remember to sign up for the match in your inbox every Monday afternoon, although there is only a couple left this season. Also, make sure you pick up Friday's Rotherham Advertiser. All the action from Molyneux. Dave, not too much action, but all the action. And also a preview of Saturday's game, last game of the season at the New York Stadium. Thank you once again for listening. Goodbye.